Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about the one of the important topics in the shoulder joint, that is shoulder dislocation. So in this topic, I'm going to discuss about the what is the introduction of the shoulder dislocation. So what are the definition, types of the shoulder dislocations. So that is anterior and posterior inferior dislocations. What are the mechanisms for the dislocations? What are the other subtypes? So evaluations, clinical findings, management, so conservative management and also surgical management, and also close reduction method and also open reduction methods, complications, and also how it's going to be recurrent dislocations. So these things I'm going to cover in this topic. So if you see the shoulder joint, so shoulder joint is the largest, one of the largest joints in our body, but it's the most mobile joint, and also it is a very less like a stability joint because of the shoulder joint as a like a weakest has weakest point in the joint, so it may use the dislocation very easily compared to the other joints. Because of this, if you see the shoulder joints, so it's going to be the glenoid cavity, the shoulder joint formed with the head of the humerus and also glenoid cavity of the scapula to form the shoulder joint. So if you see the glenoid cavity is going to be the smaller size and head of the humerus is going to be the bigger size. So because of the small size of the glenoid cavity and also large size of the head of the humerus, so it's going to give the less congruence. That means it's going to give the less stability to the shoulder joint, but is going to be the more mobile. And also supportive structures are especially the ligaments, and also this capsule is also going to give the less stability. So that is the reasons. So it may chance to get the dislocation compared to the other joints. So if you see this is the vulnerable dislocation more often than any other joints in the body, because the extreme mobility, it's enjoy jeopardize its stability. So because of the mobility, so it may chance to get the less stability. So because this shoulder joint has an Achilles point at the inferior part. So if you see here, so because of it may chance to get the shoulder dislocations. And also it's most commonly if you see the anterior and posterior types of the shoulder dislocations, especially the anterior dislocation is going to be about 95% of the dislocations is commonly seen in the anterior type of the dislocations. So if you see the anterior type and posterior type, so here the head of the humerus is going to comes to the anterior. So this is the anterior dislocation. Posterior dislocation is going to get the head of the humerus is going to towards the posteriorly. So is commonly, especially in who are having any electric shock or any seizures. So those people are going to get in the posterior dislocation. So 95% of the dislocations are the anterior dislocations. Only 5% are going to be the posterior dislocations. Inferior dislocations is a very rare, and also only less than is a 1% of the inferior dislocations. So that is about the introduction of the shoulder dislocations. So if you see the definition of the shoulder dislocations, so that is the glenohumeral instability is the inability to maintain the humeral head in the glenoid fossa. So because of the weak, because of the any muscle weakness or because of the short ligaments and also the short like a small like a the glenoid fossa and also larger head of the humerus. So these are going to be may chance to get the instability in the shoulder joint. So what are the reasons for the shoulder dislocation or instability? So these reasons are, this is the shallow glenoid. So there's a small glenoid fossa and also extraordinary ROM. So because of this shoulder joint has the 3-degree freedom. So it gives the shoulder flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and internal rotation and external rotation, including the circumduction. So because of this, more mobile is extraordinary range of motions. So it may give the less stability. And also is a vulnerability of the upper limb to the injury and underlying conditions such as the ligament laxity. And also one of the reason for the shoulder dislocation is because of the any genetic defect, as well as if any ligament laxity, if any family history of the family, if anybody family has the like a ligament laxity syndrome or hypermobile joint syndrome, so may chance to get the shoulder dislocation or may chance to give the instability in the shoulder. So because of this instability, and it will give the shoulder dislocations. So if you see the directions of the instability, so is going to be the depends upon the direction of the head of the humerus. So this is going to be the most of the dislocations are the anterior dislocations. So and also 97 of the recurrent dislocations are subcoracoid, and also in this going to be the is abduction, extension, and external rotation will happen in the shoulders subcoracoid. So if we see the direction of the instability, so it's going to below the coracoid process. So that is subcoracoid. So this is the one type, and subglenoid. So the head of the humerus is going to be the displaced below the glenoid cavity, and also subclavicular. So the head of the humerus is going to be below the clavicle, and also intrathoracic. If you may chance to get the enter into the thoracic in our thorax. So that means it depends upon the displacement of the head of the humerus. It is going to called as so is subcoracoid dislocation displacement or subglenoid and subclavicular and also intrathoracic. So these are the different types of the displacements. So in case of the posterior, so it's around 3% to the 5% are going to be the recurrent. So and also these posterior dislocation is due to because of the seizures. So that is nothing but if anybody having a neurological abnormality or in also called as convulsions or fits, generally called as fits. So if they because of in those conditions, so they are going to lose the unconsciousness and also they don't know how to do the like involuntary contraction of the muscles of the shoulders. So may chance to get the shoulder dislocation, posterior dislocations. And also is the electric shock. If anybody suddenly get the sudden electric shock, so may chance to get the abnormal direction of the shoulder movement. So it may leads to the posterior dislocations. And also fall and the flexed and also adducted arm. So if anybody has the history of the fall, so it's going to the flexion and also adduction movement. If they are in these positions, so may chance to get the posterior dislocations. So this also is the displacement may chance to get the subacromial and subglenoid and also subspinous. So these are going to be the posterior side. So below the acromion levels and also subglenoid below the glenoid fossa, same the subglenoid, but the posterior side. And also next one is going to the subspinous. So scapula having a spinous process. So you below the spinous process. So this is called as subspinous. So depends on the like a displacement of the head of the humerus. So it is the displacement is called as according to the place of the displacement. And also inferior and superior and bilateral. So these are the different types of the subluxation. Inferior subluxation is very, very rare. And also may chance to get superior subluxation and also is the bilateral. So sometimes because of the any history of the electric shock or may chance to get the bilateral dislocations. So if you see the anterior dislocation, mostly the 95% is the anterior dislocations. So in this one is a posterior one is only 5%. And also less is only less than 1% going to be the inferior dislocations. So this inferior dislocations also called as is a luxio erecta. So it's less than 1%. So and also some people may chance to get the dislocations because of the habitual dislocations. So some people are going to habitual means so who are having the ligament laxity. So intentionally while playing or something they are going to do the like intentionally they're going to dislocate their shoulder. So this is the non-traumatic dislocations may present as the multi-directional dislocations due to the generalized ligament laxity and it's also painless. So most of them who are having a genetic defect such as ligament laxity syndrome or hypermobile syndrome. So who are having these conditions or this like abnormality, ligament laxity syndrome. So sometimes intentionally they're going to just intentionally they're forcing move forward. So intentionally they're going to dislocate their shoulders and also then relocate it. But these people who are having the like a generalized ligament laxity, so they may chance to get the recurrent dislocations. Again, they're going to because of if they dislocate, again we are going to relocate but still they are going to get the some complications. So may chance to get the injury surrounding to the shoulders, such as any nerve injury or maybe blood vessel injury, may chance to get if they get the recurrent dislocations. So this because of the ligament laxity also, so the recurrent dislocations will happen. So because of the recurrent dislocations, may chance to get the some abnormality in the shoulder joints, such as in the glenoid cavity and also in the head of the humerus. So may chance to get the erosions or may chance to get the damage in the bones. So we will discuss in the what are those damage that is a Hilscher's lesions and Branchet lesions. So we are going to discuss in the later slides. So how the mechanism will be the anterior dislocations. So anterior dislocations, so is it because of the direct effect and also indirect effect. So if you see the indirect effect, so the fall on the abductor and it's also extended shoulder. So if you see here, this is the extension, if anybody history of the fallen outstretched hand, and also this going to be the abducted and also extension of the shoulder. So in these positions, so may chance to get the shoulder like a dislocations. So fall on outstretched hand and also abduction and external rotations may gives the shoulder anterior dislocations. And also maybe direct when there is a blow on the shoulder from the behind. So if anybody hit from the behind, so may chance to get the shoulder dislocations, especially in case of any like a sports injuries, or if intentionally if they hit on the posterior side, if they hit on the posterior side, so is going to be displaced into the anterior side, we'll get the anterior dislocation. So what is the pathoanatomy of the dislocations? So this pathoanatomy is mainly is going to get the stretching and tearing of the capsule. So if anybody get the direct injury or indirect injury, so the major problem is going to get the capsule is going to get the damage. Is the stretching overstretch or also is maybe any tearing of the capsule. So it may leads to the, so if you see here, so it may leads to the dislocations. So that is depends upon the severity. First, they may chance if the less force, they may chance to get the subluxation. So if the violence is more, they may chance to get the dislocations. And also avulsion of the glenohumeral ligaments, usually of the glenoid. So if in case of the avulsions, so that means any avulsion, any sudden contraction of the muscles, are so it may lead to some chip from fractures or may happen in the shoulder joint. So it maybe is a labral tear or maybe any other like lesions, bronchial lesions. So these are going to be, if you see here, so these are labral injuries. So this going to may chance to get the damage surrounding to the capsule. So it may give the like a shoulder dislocations. So this is a labral injury. So if you see here, the normal labrum is going to be the fixing to the glenoid cavity. It's gives a cushion and support to the head of the humerus. So if any damage in the labrum, so if you see here the damage or tear in the labrum, so it may chance to give the dislocations because of if any damage in the labrum, it cannot give the support to it cannot give the stability to the shoulder joint. It may chance to get the shoulder dislocations. And also if you see other lesions and also is the impression fractures, so such as the Ilsach lesions, so may chance to get the Ilsach lesions. Some small fractures may happen in the head of the so if you see here, so we can find here, so these fractures may happen, so it may lead to the dislocations. And also another causative factor is the rotator cuff tear. So rotator cuff means, so the muscles especially surrounding to the shoulder joints. So especially these muscles are going to be stabilize the shoulder in the proper positions. So such as this is the supraspinatus and also infraspinatus. So here supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor and subscapularis. So these sit muscles, so these muscles are the main responsible for the shoulder stability. So also called as rotator cuff muscles. So if any damage of this rotator cuff, so it may lead to the weakness of these muscles, may gives the disability and it may gives the instability. So it may chance to give the shoulder dislocations. So these are the some causative factors, and also that is the pathological, the disease progressions may chance to get the shoulder dislocation. So if you see the clinical picture, so what are the symptoms and signs of the shoulder dislocations? So especially if anybody get any injury also, the first and foremost important symptom is the pain. So especially in the shoulder displacement, so because of the overstretching of the capsule, so it may give the severe pain. And also next symptom is a whole injured limb with the other hand close to the trunk. So because of unable to maintain unable to hold the like a limb without support because of the overstretching of the capsule. So this head have come outside from the glenoid cavity. It may use the more pressure at the capsule. So it may give the severe pain. So that is the another symptom of the shoulder dislocations. The shoulder is abducted and also elbow in the kept in the flexions. So to maintain at least to prevent the further stretch, so the patient is going to be abducted and slightly elbow is going to give in the flexion positions. So these common symptoms we are going to find if anybody comes with the shoulder dislocation. And also we are going to observe the loss of the normal contour of the shoulder appears as a step. So if you see here, so the difference between the see here the difference between the shoulder joints. So that means we can feel the some space between the glenoid cavity and also head of the humerus. Normally there is no space between the glenoid cavity and also head of the humerus, but here we are going to feel the like a step one space because of the displacement of the head of the humerus. So it's come down. So because of the this displacement will use this step appearance. And also one more important feature is the anterior side, the shoulder joint is going to be the bulge. So because of the head of the humerus, so maybe we can see is clearly, or also if sometimes we are going to palpate easily. If it's not visible clearly, so at least if you palpate, we can feel the head of the humerus in the anterior compartment. So we are going to find the anterior to the shoulder joint, we can find the head of the humerus. And also if you see the empty glenoid socket, so if you palpate, so this anterior head of the humerus is going to be the anterior, so the glenoid cavity is going to be empty because of the joint is going to be displaced. So if you imagine this is the head of like a glenoid cavity, if this is the head of the humerus, so it's going to come away from the glenoid cavity. So these are the clinical pictures and clinical symptoms of the anterior dislocation. If you see here, so that's going to be the space, everything is, we can find here the space. So you can feel here. So there is no like a fullness is going to be missed in the shoulder joint. So this fullness we can see in the anterior side of the shoulder joint. So this commonly we are going to find. And also the symptoms are going to be this axillary fold is going to be increased. So the signs we are going to discuss here. So who are having these shoulder dislocations, we can do some special test. So these special tests are these signs are going to indicate the shoulder dislocation easily. So if you see the anterior dislocations, so we can see that the test is the Hamilton ruler test. So Hamilton ruler test means, so this a ruler can be placed between the acromion and also lateral epicondyle. Normally, if you see here, so this is the ruler test. Normally, after dislocating the space between the acromion and also head of the humerus, so this will be the space is there. So there we can keep the ruler easily at the acromion process. If you bring it here, the lateral epicondyle of the elbow. So here we can place it one ruler. Normally, we cannot place who are the normal people because of here there is no space. We cannot keep the ruler properly. So if we keep it, the ruler is going to be displaced, maybe anterior or posterior. Maybe we cannot place the ruler properly. But in case of the shoulder dislocations, because of the space, so here in the between the glenoid cavity and also head of the humerus, the space we are going to find, the step test we are going to found, the step is going to be we can found. So there we can keep easily with this ruler. So who are having the gap and also who are can able to hold or keep this ruler at the acromion process, it indicates the anterior subluxation, anterior dislocations. And also another test is the Dugas test. So in the Dugas test, if anybody complain or if anybody having the shoulder, like if any history of the fall and also flexed and also abducted and also extension positions. So in these positions, if they get dislocations or the subluxations, so if you ask the patient to hold the opposite shoulder, so in this position, very difficult who already got the anterior dislocations. So if unable to hold the opposite shoulder, so it indicates the abnormality in the, so that means it indicates the anterior dislocation of the shoulder. So these are the two important clinical tests we can diagnose the anterior dislocations. And also one more test is a Calvé's test. So this one is going to be, if you have to check the circumference of the axilla. So normally the axilla circumference is going to be increased. So because of the displacement, if it's the head of the humerus comes here, so it's going to comes to the either subglenoid and also subcoracoid, or maybe is in case of the like a subclavicular. So anything are intrathoracic. So major. So because of this displacement of the head of the humerus, so the axilla circumference. So if you check with the measurement tape, the circumference is going to be increased. So this also is another cause to factors, and also another investigation are also special sign for the anterior dislocations. And also next one is the Bryant test. So is going to the anterior axillary fold is going to be at the lower level. So normally if you find the axillary fold is going to be is a little bit upper in the normal conditions. But because of the displacement of the head of the humerus comes down, so if it comes, the axilla fold is going to be the lower, like in the lower levels. So these tests are going to be identify and also to diagnose clearly and also about the anterior dislocation of the shoulder. So these are the 4 physical tests we can, while doing the physical examinations, we can help to, these tests help to rule out the, is it either the anterior dislocation or the posterior dislocation or inferior dislocation, or maybe other related, we can do the other differential diagnosis, any other, any fracture. So we are going to easily differential diagnose is a fracture or dislocations with this special test. So if you see the investigation procedures, so the investigation procedures are the main investigation procedure. If any patient comes with the anterior dislocation or any dislocations abnormality, first have to go with the like a X-ray. So these X-rays are going to be identify the where having these dislocations. If you see the normal joints in the X-ray, so glenoid cavity and also head of the humerus is going to be the fixed positions, and also slightly is going to be the space they are going to found. But in case of the subluxations, so here, so if you see here, the head of the humerus comes downwards, and also glenoid cavity is the upperwards. So it's not in the same levels. So glenoid cavity is the upper levels, and also head of the humerus will comes to the lower level. So this is the indicating that is shoulder dislocations. So the displacement of the head of the humerus, so it indicates the anterior dislocations. So you can find here in the different directions also. Those see here, this is the glenoid cavity. So this head of the humerus is displaced from the glenoid cavity. So below the is a glenoid fossa. So this is the X-ray and investigation procedure for the anterior dislocation of the shoulder. So, and also when we have to give the surgery and also emergency treatment. So in case of the management, we have to, the emergency should be reduced within the 24 hours or even the avascular necrosis of the head of the humerus. So in case of the AV and avascular necrosis of the head of the humerus, so may chance to get, because of the, if the dislocation happens, so may chance to get the surrounding vessels may chance to get the damage. So such as any like a arterial supply, the blood supply to the joint, as well as if any nerve injury to the any, especially the axillary nerve is may chance to get the injury in case of the dislocations. In those conditions, immediately within the less than 24 hours, have to do the reduction method. So is either close reduction and also is open reduction. Depends upon the patient conditions and also patient the severity of the dislocations and associated symptoms such as fracture, along with any lesions, any joint lesions, Bunkat lesions, and Ilshach lesions. So depends upon the involved causative factor, we have to do the surgical procedure as soon as possible. And also after that, immobilized strap to the trunk for the 3 to 4 weeks, and also rested in the collar and cuff. So sling. So after the reductions, I have to give the cuff and collar at least 3 to 4 weeks, minimum 21 days to 1 month. So if we give the after reductions, so so we can stabilize, and also we can give the stability to the shoulder joint. Otherwise, it may chance to get the recurrent dislocations. So this is about the management. So these are going to be the managements are going to be the 2 types. So first one is the open reduction, close reduction, and also open reductions. Close reductions, how we are going to do these techniques are the traction, counter traction method, Hippocrates method, and also Stimson's method. Next one is the Kocher's techniques. So these maneuvers are going to be these are the like a shoulder dislocation maneuvers, shoulder dislocation reduction maneuvers, the close reductions. So these close reduction methods are the traction, counter traction method, Hippocrates method, and Stimson technique, and Kocher's techniques. So these reduction methods are going to be helpful to fix the shoulder into the proper positions. So if any displacement is either like anterior dislocation or posterior dislocations, and it depends upon the displacement, subcoracoid, subglenoid, and also subclavicular, and also in the intrathoracic. So this depends upon the site of the displacement. So we are going to do the different reduction methods. The first one is the traction and also counter traction method. So in this method, the patient, after confirming the anterior dislocations, so this traction and counter traction method we are going to use for the indication for the anterior dislocations. But we can do for the posterior dislocation also, but the placement and also assistance, the direction, pull of the direction is going to be altered. So here the patient position should be supine lying position. So here place the patient in the supine lying positions with the sheet or clothing wrapped around the underneath the affected axilla, crossing over the chest. If you see here, this is the right side shoulder anterior dislocations. So in the right side anterior shoulder dislocations, so the patients and also the physician has to hold, has to stay same side to the same like a limb, right side, and also assistant should hold stand on the opposite side, and I have to apply the any sheet or maybe any cloth underneath the scapula, underneath the chest. So how to give the pull opposite to the like a chest. So this direction, opposite this direction, or this way, how to give the pull. So here, with after that, so the therapist, the physician has to hold the hand and also elbow. So in these directions, the elbow should maintain is the flexion positions. So after that, apply the gentle traction to the arm at the 45 degrees and also the trunk in slightly extension. So here have to give the slightly external rotations. And also orthopedic surgeon has to do this slightly external rotation of the shoulder 15 degrees and relocate into the same positions, push upwards into the glenoid fossa. So has to give the gentle traction. So after that is a 45 degrees and also from the angle from the trunk in a slight extension. So then have to do the slight external rotations. So the side external rotations and relocate is a push into the upwards into the glenoid cavity. So these things is like a traction and counter traction method. So I think I can show you one video. It is easy to understand. Okay. Here I'm going to show you the video how to relocate the shoulder in the traction counter traction method with some videos here. So this is the method. Patient position is the supine lying position. Okay, one more time. Okay, that is the traction and counter traction method. So hope you understand. So how to do the traction and how to do the external rotation, 15 degrees of external rotation and relocate and push into the head of the humerus into the glenoid fossa. But only thing is when we can do and when should not do these contra, what are the contraindications for the traction counter traction method? If anybody having any fracture of the humerus, so should not give the any this traction and counter traction method. First, we have to confirm in the X-ray. So if you find any crepitus or any like a joint, like a abnormal movement or any fracture symptoms, so we should not give the traction and counter traction like a techniques. So after the reductions, so how to maintain this hand in the like a cuff and collar sling positions at least minimum 2 to 3 weeks. So it's going to be stabilize the shoulder joint. After that, so one important thing is, so in case the causative factor is because of the any muscle weakness, so after the stabilize, after the reduction, so how to do the physiotherapy properly. So this physiotherapy will help to improve the muscle strengthening as well as the stability to the shoulder joint. So that is the importance of the traction counter traction method, along with the strengthening of the muscles with physiotherapy. And also, if the cryptus is felt or head during the traction and the stop the rotation and also and procedure to obtain X-ray. So if you find anything, so we have to do for the X-ray. So then only we can diagnose is there any fracture or any other abnormalities. So is there any history of the humeral fracture? So do not attempt the relocations. So we should not give this traction counter traction method if anybody having any humeral fractures. So that is about the traction counter traction method. So another one is the Coach's method. So in the Coach's method, so how to do the position of the patient should be in the supine lying positions. So here also, this method also useful to reduce the shoulder dislocations. So here the affected arm is pulled in the direction of the long axis. So how to give the slight traction downwards, we see here. So give the traction, and also we have to do the followed by the external rotations. If you pull, give the traction and slightly do the external rotation of the shoulder. So if you see external rotations, so you have to do the directions, we have to give the external rotations. So after that, so the arm is adducted. So after external rotation here, if the arm is adducted, and also is until the pop sound heard. So if you do the external rotation and adductions, so automatically is going to relocate the joint into the glenoid fossa. So this is the procedures. So first one is the longitudinal axis of the traction and also external rotations. Next one is I have to do the adduction positions. So after adductions, so we have to maintain the arm in the like in the is the opposite shoulder position in these positions. If you give the sling or maybe cuff and collar in these positions, so we are going to like stabilize the shoulder joint. So this method is called the Coucher's techniques. So this technique also will help to reduce the shoulder subluxations. So another method is the Hippocrate method. So this Hippocrate method is also is an old method, but only thing is small disadvantages are along with these Hippocrates methods. So these Hippocrate methods, so in this one, so how do the surgeon under, so these are all the methods, these are all the reduction methods, how to do the under general anesthesia. Otherwise, the patient cannot cooperate because of the severe pain. So under the general anesthesia, how to do these reductions depends upon the person, is either general anesthesia or is a local anesthesia. So most of the times we'll give the general anesthesia to reduce the, like to reliquate the joint in the glenoid fossa. So this also Hippocrate methods. So it's going to be like a put the one leg inside the axilla and also push it upwards. So if we give the traction, so we are going to relocate the head of the humerus into the glenoid cavity. So this also another method, that is Hippocrate methods. So here also I'm going to show you this like a video. Okay, wait, give me 1 minute. I'll show you the video here. Here I'm going to show the how we are going to do the Hippocrate methods. Here I'm sharing the video once. Yeah. So this is the Hippocrate method. So that is about the Hippocratic method. So within the 5 seconds, we are going to relocate the shoulder joint into the glenoid cavity. So, but these things, everything have to do under the general anesthesia. So then only the patient cooperate. Otherwise, the patient may chance to get the severe pain. So we cannot do like we cannot reduce properly. So that is the about the Hippocratic method. But only thing is it may chance to give the some complications. So that's the reasons. So it's a difficult to do the this Hippocratic method frequently. So because of while doing this, operator put foot in the patient's, it's a padded axilla. So have to keep one padded some pads inside the axilla so easily to apply the traction. So this the method is not effective, but may use the complications. So like a Crutch's method and also traction counter traction is the better than this Hippocratic methods. And also another technique is Stimson's techniques. So in the Stimson's techniques, we have to make the patient in the prone lying positions. So if the prone lying positions, if we give any weights to the distal part of the arm, so we hand, so it is going to give the traction to the shoulder joint. So it may give the reduction in the shoulder dislocations. So here in this position, the technique is hanging weight techniques. The patient in the prone lying positions and also stretcher with the weights attached to the affected arm. So which hangs from the side of the stretchers. So it's going to side of stretchers. So here we have to give the intra-articular anesthesia. So this intra-articular anesthesia will reduce the pain while giving the traction. So this technique also to reduce the shoulder dislocations. And especially these techniques are going to use for the only in case of the anterior, like a dislocation of the shoulders. So what are the complications in the anterior shoulder dislocations? So the most common complications are because of the anterior shoulder dislocations, it may chance to get the axillary nerve compressions. So because of the displacement of the head of the humerus comes from the glenoid cavity. So axilla is going to be supplied to the deltoid. So this nerve is going to chance to get the compression, that is axillary nerve. And also axillary artery also is may chance to get the compressions. So because of the axillary nerve compressions, so may chance to get the is a decreased blood supply to the shoulder joint, and also it may chance to get the avascular necrosis. And also it may use the stretch to the ligaments. So because of the stretching of the ligaments may chance to get the like a tear, depends upon the severity, and may chance to get the inflammations, or maybe is a micro trauma to the ligaments, or may is gain chance to get the is a like a rupture of the ligaments. So it depends upon the severity of the force. So it may get the damage to the ligaments. And also sometimes it may chance to get the associated fractures in the neck of the humerus, and also greater or lesser tuberosity, Hilscher's lesions, and Bankert lesions. So because these are also one of the cause two factors, these Hilscher's lesions and Bankert lesions are going to be some of the reasons for the shoulder dislocations. So these are the common complications of the anterior shoulder dislocations. So because of who are having the with axillary nerve injury, so we can commonly find the atrophy of the deltoid muscle because axillary nerve supplies to the deltoid. So because of the damage of the axillary nerve, so it won't supplies to so it won't give the electrical impulses to the deltoid muscle. It may leads to the decreasing the sensation as well as the motor functions. So it may leads to the weakness and also atrophy. The muscle become very thin. So these are the complications of the anterior dislocations. And also just now we discussed, so the lesions especially may chance to get so this Bankert lesions. So is an anterior part of the glenoid labrum of the shoulder. So if any damage here, so anterior part of the glenoid labrum. So if any damage also may chance to get like a shoulder dislocations. So this injury is caused by repeated anterior dislocations or shoulder subluxations. So it may chance to get if anybody get any subluxation, so that means not complete displacement, partial displacement. Subluxation means partial. For example, shoulder joint here, if it comes away from the glenoid cavity from here, so if it is here, from here to there is a dislocation. Subluxation means from here only slightly displacement of the head of the humerus, so may chance to get like a displacement. So if a repeated subluxation may chance to get these Bankert lesions, especially in case of sports injuries while throwing activities, any athletic activities, any weight lifting, any overhead activities. So these activities are may chance to get the subluxations because of the rotator cuff muscle weakness or if anybody having any other lesions, bronchial lesions or Hill-Sachs lesions, so may chance to give the this bronchial lesions. So the dislocation of the shoulder joint can damage the connective tissue ring around the glenoid labrum. So because of this subluxation and dislocations, so this area is going, this bronchial lesion is may chance to get the damage. So but because of this connective tissue damage, so the joint won't get the complete attachment, no contour. So it means the congruence is going to be altered. So it may lead to the weakness and also displacement occurs in the shoulder joint. So if you see the fracture in the bronchial lesions, so the bony regions, so if any region in the glenoid cavity, so for example, any rupture or erosions of the glenoid cavity also, so may chance to get the shoulder dislocations. And also in case of the Hill-Sachs lesions also, if you see here, the fracture in the humerus, the small like fragments or any erosion in the joint or the bone. So these also one of the positive factors and some of the lesions in case of the anterior dislocations. So these are the very important. So it depends upon the involvement of the causative factors, the surgical procedure will be different. In case of the in the bronchial lesions and also Hill-Sachs lesions, so if you give the reduction methods, we cannot reduce the shoulder dislocations. So only thing is the surgical management have to repair the bronchial lesions and also Hill-Sachs lesions. In those conditions, the treatment procedure will be the open reductions. And also, what are the complications may chance to get in the late shoulder dislocation? So it may chance to get the avascular necrosis, that is head of the humerus. So because of the decrease in blood supply, due to involvement of the axillary nerve. So also may chance to get the decreased blood supply to the shoulder joint. It will give the avascular necrosis. And also another important complication is the heterotrophic calcifications. This calcification is because of nothing but is excessive growth or tissue growth at the shoulder joint. So nothing but is called as the myositis ossificans. So this is a heterotrophic calcification. Extra growth will happen in case of the recurrent dislocation of the shoulders. And also this most commonly most commonly seen in the elbow joint compared to the shoulder joint. So this is the extra growth of the tissues on the joint may happen in the elbow joints if any injury surrounding to the elbow joint. So and also because of the this recurrent because of the weakness or the many times the dislocations also may chance to get the recurrent dislocations because of the ligament laxity or because of the hypermobile joint syndrome. So coming to the posterior dislocations, so posterior dislocations also going to be like a less than like a 5 to 10% of the dislocations. So here is going to be the shoulder is in the adduction positions, adduction, flexion, and internal rotations. So adduction, flexion, and internal rotation. So in these positions, the patient is going to, that means the head of the humerus is going to displace from the posteriorly. So this is the main mechanism of the like a position of the shoulder posterior dislocations. The causative factors and also if you see the mechanisms, so the mechanisms, especially the electric shock and also seizure episode. So if because of the electric shock, so we don't know how the movement is going to be happen. So if the suddenly forceful movement, so may chance to get the electric because of the electric shock, they may chance to get the internal rotations, adduction and flexions. So if the internal rotations and also adductions and also flexion in these positions, so may chance to get the posterior dislocations. And also another mechanism is for the direct force below the blow from the anterior aspect. If anybody hit or if any blow in the anterior side, so it may this joint is going to be displaced posteriorly. So these are the two mechanisms for the posterior dislocations. So if you see the symptoms of the posterior dislocations, the symptoms are mainly the severe pain. So any dislocation, anterior dislocation, posterior dislocation, and inferior dislocations. So all are going to be get the severe pain is the first foremost important things. And also arm is in the position of the adduction and also internal rotations. So this is the, who are having this the interflexion and also adduction position, right? So this is the classical sling positions. After anterior dislocation, also we are going to stabilize the joint in the sling positions. So this is the adduction and also flexion positions. So this is also going to be found if any patient get the posterior dislocations. So if we try to do if you examine the shoulder joint and also especially abduction is going to be restricted. So because of the joint is going to comes in the adduction and also flexion adduction, internal rotation, flexions. So if you try to do the abductions, so difficult to do the movement because of the head of the humerus is going to be stuck in the posteriorly. So that is the reasons. So we have to assess thoroughly. So then we can easily understand. So which movement is restricted and which movement which deformity is there in the shoulder joint. According to the restriction of the movement and also deformity, we can understand where they're having the dislocations. So along with the physical examinations and also just now we discussed Hamilton ruler test and also Dugas test as well as X-rays. So we are going to do the differential diagnosis. That means either anterior dislocation or posterior dislocations. We are going to confirm it with these deformities and also like a special signs and investigation procedures. And if next one is the normal counter of the shoulder is going to be lost. So if you palpate here, so here is going to be the anterior side is going to be the like the contour is going to be less or lost. Normally because of this head of the humerus, this anterior and posterior is going to be full, like in the normal positions. So if it is going posterior side, so this is going to be the loss, and also this posterior side is going to be the fullness. So if you palpate posteriorly, the posterior we are going to feel the fullness of the head of the humerus. So that is the in the anterior dislocation, the head of the humerus comes anteriorly. We feel the fullness in the anterior side. In the posteriorly, the fullness will be in the posterior side. And also the anterior aspect is a flat. So if we here, this is going to be flat and this is going to be the fullness in the posterior side. And also coracoid process is the more prominent. So because of this coracoid process, so this is going to be prominent because of the flatness of the anterior side. So these are the major symptoms of the posterior dislocations. So we see here the dislocations. So the glenoid cavity, so is anteriorly, and also head of the humerus is going to the posteriorly. So this is the most common, like in case of the posterior dislocations. So if you see here the flatness in the anterior side and also fullness in the posterior side. So this is the posterior dislocations. So if you see the X-ray, so we can find this is the posterior dislocation. You can see here the glenoid cavity here. So the glenoid cavity is anteriorly, head of the humerus is the posteriorly. So because of these things, so we are going to see the prominence of the acromion process. So we can feel the prominence in the acromion process. So that is the imaging investigations, such as X-rays, and also these are going to be, you can find the scapular Y view. So we can find because of this comes outside, that is anteriorly the glenoid cavity is going to be. So here we are going to find the Y-shape appearance in the X-ray. So these are the major signs of the posterior dislocations. So what is the management here? So the management also is going to be traction and counter traction method. So, but here is, so how to the traction to adduct arm in the line of the deformity. So gentle lifting of the humeral head into the glenoid fossa. But here is how to give here the patient should be in the supine lying position, same counter traction and counter traction method. So here how to give the traction and slightly internal rotations and also adduction of the affected arm. So we have to give the traction, like the longitudinal tractions, and also slightly we have to give the internal rotation of the shoulder, then how to give the adduction method. So if we give this adduction, so the affected arm, so is going to give the, is relocate the joint. So while doing this traction and also internal rotation adduction movement, we have to give the instruction to the assistants. So ask them to pull away from away from the physician. So from the here, so they pull the opposite directions. If you pull here, and also the other assistants has to pull the joint. So if we give the traction, counter traction, we are going to relocate the joint in the proper positions. So this is for the posterior dislocations. In case of the inferior dislocations, so this inferior dislocation also same, but here you are going to be apply the overhead tractions. So we are having inferior dislocation, how to give the overhead traction upwards, and also with the arm in the abduction, and also with your free hands. So how to do the abduction movement, and also we have to maintain the overhead activities. So exert is the cephalic pressure over the humeral head. So instruct the assistant to apply the counter traction towards the patient feet. So if we give the feet here, so it's going to be we can relocate the joint. So here we can see the direction of the force towards the patient feet. So here is going to be the application of the traction is towards the opposite shoulder. So this is the difference between the posterior dislocations and also inferior dislocations. So in case of any any abnormality, if it's not like a reducted properly. So this operative treatment will be in case of if any failed closure methods. So in the closure reduction failed methods, or in case of any displaced fractures, in case of the recurrence, or in case of the large defect, that is such as the reverse Hillchurch lesions. So in case of these are the special indications for the surgical management. In case of the, if the closure reduction is failed, or in case of the fracture, any recurrence of the shoulder dislocations, the repeatedly occurs the shoulder dislocations. If the defect is larger, so for example, in case of the Hillchurch methods, if the damage is the bigger, larger size, so we have to do the surgical procedures. So if you see here, so this is the reverse Hillchurch. So if any fracture fragment is like a larger size, so in these conditions, is the only is the treatment plan is the open reductions. So here also in the case of the posterior dislocations, the complications also same like is the axillary now is going to be involved, and also nerve to infraspinatus, so which now supplies to the infraspinatus muscle also going to get may chance to get the damage. And also vascular complications may chance to get the fractures, and also recurrence may also happening in the posterior dislocations. So this is the complications of the posterior dislocations. And also, if you see this, the symptoms also same. If anybody get the capsuling stretch or also pain, swelling, deformity, unable to do the movements, these are the common symptoms. But special are going to be, we are going to find some special sign investigations and some special signs we are going to identify. So according to the investigation procedures, we can diagnose is it the anterior or posterior or inferior. So if you see here, the another type of the dislocation is the inferior dislocations. So these inferior dislocations are also called as the luxato and also erecta. So these are especially in case of is a hyperabduction force. If anybody get the hyperabductions, suddenly lifting up the over abduction of the shoulder, so may chance to get the inferior dislocations. This is the very rare conditions. Only is less than 1% people may chance to get the inferior dislocations. So due to hyperabduction is the movement. So in these conditions, if we see the is going to be the dislocation, the head of the humerus is going to be inferiorly. So these are the glenoid cavity. So the glenoid cavity or glenoid fossa is going to superiorly. Head of the humerus is going to comes downwards. That is inferiorly. So this is going to be, so because of these things, so may chance to get the compression to the surrounding structures, and also may chance to get the axillary nerve injury and also axillary artery injury. So these are the common complications in the inferior in case of the inferior dislocation of the shoulders. So here also we are going to do the like a traction counter traction methods. So here we have to do the like a, from is a overhead abduction to the, we have to bring back them into the normal positions. While giving this one is we have to give the we can instruct the assistants how to give the counter traction towards the opposite foot. So if, for example, the left hand is dislocated, the left shoulder is dislocated, we have to give the traction towards the right, like a hip towards the right hip. So we are going to bring this arm from the over abduction to the into the adduction positions. So this traction counter traction method will reduce the inferior subluxations. And also if it's not possible is open reductions, and also how to do the surgical procedures to correct the shoulder joint under general anesthesia, and also so we can bring into the normal positions. So what are the complications? So in the inferior dislocations, the complications are the high compared to the other dislocations. So because of his may chance to get the downwards, so it may pressure is going to be the more. So it's going to be the vascular, is going to be get the injury, is either axillary and also neurological, is an axillary now is going to be involved, and also ligaments may chance to get the overstretch, tear, and also ligament the micro trauma, damage, and also the rupture also may chance to get. And also in case if in the also may chance to get the upper fractures, the head of the humerus fractures, and also maybe and also may chance to get the tuberosity fractures also may chance to get. So these are the some complications of the like a inferior dislocation of the shoulder. And also how to do the evolution for the recurrent atraumatic instability. So how to do who are going to prone to get the recurrent dislocations. So we have to know so what is the causative factor for the shoulder dislocations. So the causative factor especially is because of the trauma. So we have to get the full history from the patient or caregivers. So it's because of the any trauma, any road traffic accidents, any history of the fall, or any sports injuries, or especially throwing and also overhead activities. So especially you are using the like a sports activities like a shot put, the weighing ball lifting and throwing, or javelin, or maybe disc throw. So these are the some sports like athletic events. So who are participating. So if they are not trained properly, if they are not using the proper techniques, so they may chance to get the like a dislocation of the shoulder. Or in case of the voluntary subluxation and also clunk or knock. So these are, and we have to check is there any voluntary dislocation is there or not. And also if they're having any fear or any history of the dislocation or any energy associated. So we have to evaluate properly, thoroughly. So then only we can know the, so what the causative factors who are going to prone to get the recurrent dislocations. And also we have to demonstrate the subluxations and also dislocations, ligament laxity test, and also stability test. We have to check the some stability test and also laxity test. So if you find all the history taking and also what are the causative factors and also the demonstration, what type of the dislocation subluxations may. So if we show all these things, so we can identify and also we can identify the recurrent dislocations, the risk factors. So who are having the ligament laxity or the hypermobile syndrome. So this is genetic defects. So they can bend to any side, from one side to another side. They are going to reach to the back side, and also because so those people are more chance to get the recurrent dislocations. So we have to find the these like a some with a special test and investigation procedures and also ligament laxity. So these things are we are going to be if we identify. So we are going to prevent the recurrent dislocations. So what is the management for the recurrent dislocations, especially the in case of the conservative management, in case of the acute episodes, and also we have to give the immobilizations with the sling applications and taping applications, and also especially the physiotherapy. So who are prone to get the recurrent dislocations, we have to do the like a physiotherapy with a strengthening exercise, especially the rotator cuff muscles, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and also next one is the subscapularis. So these muscles have to strengthen. So along with the shoulder surrounding the shoulder scapular and shoulder muscles, if we strengthen properly, so we are going to prevent the recurrent shoulder dislocations. If it is not controlled with the immobilization and also physiotherapy techniques, so how to do the surgical procedures. So these surgical procedures are going to be the soft tissue reconstructions. So if any restructure, any injuries are in case of ligament laxity, so it's cannot controlled. So if it is not curable also, so reconstruct the soft tissues. So with the open surgical procedures or maybe arthroscopic surgical procedures, how to use so to prevent the recurrent dislocations. Or in case of the bony reconstructions, so especially in case of the Ilsha's lesions and also Bankert lesions, if it's the larger size, if it is not controlled with like a conservative management, so how to do the like a bony reconstruction surgeries. So this soft tissue reconstruction and also bony reconstructions. So that is depends upon the lesion, depends upon the causative factors. So if they treat like a surgically, so we are going to we are going to minimize the complications. So with this one, we are going to prevent the complications and also improve the all the functions in the shoulders. So that is about the recurrent dislocations and also management. So these are the anterior dislocations and posterior dislocations and inferior dislocations and recurrent dislocations. So main thing is depends upon the causative factors. We have to correct the treatment and also we have to correct it so we can improve the strength in the shoulder joint. We can prevent the shoulder subluxations and also dislocations. So that's about the shoulder dislocations. Hope you understand clearly. So if you have any doubts, you can send me a message. I can clarify your doubts. Thank you very much. See you in the next class.